How many moments of your life have slipped away in arguments that led nowhere? How many times have you walked away from a conflict feeling drained, restless, and wondering why you even bothered? Most of us don't realize that there is a quiet strength available to us, a strength not in fighting back, but in choosing silence. It's the strength of ignoring what does not deserve your attention. Now, ignoring does not mean indifference. It is not weakness. In fact, it is wisdom. Because true intelligence is not about proving you're right. It's about refusing to be pulled into battles that only steal your peace. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. The trap of reaction. From childhood, many of us were taught, if someone challenges you, defend yourself. If someone insults you, respond. But have you ever noticed that is often exactly what the other person is seeking? When someone throws harsh words at you, are they truly interested in your perspective? Rarely. More often, they want to see you react. They want proof that their words shook you. And every time we respond in anger, we hand them our energy like a gift they never earned. It's like being on a long journey by sea. Imagine your boat steadily moving toward the horizon, but at every insult you stop rowing, pick up the rocks thrown at you, and waste your strength hurling them back. The ocean doesn't care, your journey is delayed, and you are the one left exhausted. This is what reaction does. It derails you, little by little, until you're no longer moving toward your true path. Worse still, this reaction has become automatic. The moment we feel challenged, we fire back without pausing, without breathing, without thinking. How ego pulls you into battles. The truth is, it's not always the other person who traps us, it's our own ego. Ego whispers, don't let them disrespect you, prove you're smarter, show them you're right. And before we realize it, we're raising our voices, defending a position that may not even matter. But think honestly, how many arguments in your life ended with both sides smiling and saying, that was amazing, we truly understand each other now? Almost never. Because arguments are rarely about truth, they are about ego, and ego thrives on conflict. Yet here lies the paradox. Real strength does not come from proving anything. Real strength is when you no longer feel the need to prove at all. There's an old Buddhist teaching about a man insulted on the road. Instead of answering with anger, he simply smiled and walked away. A passerby, surprised, asked him why he didn't reply. The man said, if someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, who does it still belong to? The lesson is simple yet profound. Insults, criticism, and anger are like unwanted gifts. If we accept them, they poison our hearts. If we refuse them, they remain with the one who offered them. Most of us, however, take these gifts without hesitation. We absorb the negativity, carry it within us, and let it shape our emotions. But we don't have to live this way. You are not required to respond to everything. Not every battle is worth fighting. True power often lies in restraint, in choosing not to play the game at all. When someone provokes you, watch carefully. They are expecting your reaction. But when you respond with silence, the power shifts instantly. The one who does not react becomes the one in control. Why we invite conflict. Think of a pond disturbed by a stone. The ripples appear, then fade. The water doesn't cling to the disturbance. It returns to stillness. Humans, however, rarely let go so easily. We not only react to conflict, we often chase after it, as if every disagreement must be resolved with victory. Why? Because we confuse disagreement with threat. When someone challenges us, it feels like our very identity is being questioned. To defend that fragile identity, we argue, not to understand, but to protect the self-image we cling to. If you look closer, you'll see that most arguments are not about truth. They are about wounds people carry inside them. A person who is already hurt will look for fights. A person who feels small will try to pull others down. And when we take the bait, we end up shouldering their baggage as our own. That's why what starts as a simple difference of opinion often turns into a battlefield of emotions. Suddenly, it's no longer about ideas, it's about winning. But what exactly is won? What value is there in winning when the other person was never listening? The only prize is exhaustion. We waste hours debating with friends, strangers, or loved ones, and in the end, nothing changes. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is attachment, and here, it is the attachment to being right, to being understood, to being validated, that creates endless conflict. But what if you release that attachment? What if every disagreement was no longer a threat to your identity? The truth is, your wisdom does not depend on another person's agreement. Your truth remains true whether or not others see it. This realization is liberating. The art of non-reaction is not about silencing yourself or walking away from meaningful dialogue. It's about discernment. It's the ability to see the difference between conversations that bring growth and arguments that only drain life from you. Knowing when to speak and when to let go is a sign of deep wisdom. Ignoring what does not deserve your energy is not weakness. It is clarity. And when you embrace this, you discover something even greater, the subtle art of the non-response. The art of the non-response. There is a strength in silence that most people overlook. In a world where everyone rushes to defend themselves, to explain, to prove, they forget that sometimes the greatest mastery is found in restraint. To ignore does not mean to give up. It means you are no longer willing to waste your peace in battles that bring no victory. Picture someone standing before you, shouting for your reaction. You do not flinch. You do not answer. They raise their voice, trying harder to pierce your calm, yet you remain unmoved. Eventually, their energy fades into nothingness. That is the essence of non-response. Most of the time, people are not searching for dialogue. They are searching for a way to stir you. They want to see you lose control, stumble for words, or rise to anger. It is like a fisherman casting a line, hoping you'll bite. But the strongest choice is to let the hook drift by untouched. Non-response is not about hiding or suppressing your truth. It is about discernment. It is the pause before action, the question, does this deserve my energy? Will this conversation lead to growth or only keep me trapped in circles? Every time you speak, you spend your attention, and your attention is priceless. Ego whispers that silence is weakness, that if you do not fight back, you have already lost. But the deeper truth is this: nothing shows strength more than calmness. No storm can disturb. The wind and the mountain becoming unshakable. There is a saying in Buddhist thought: the wind may raise dust, but it cannot move the mountain. To practice the art of non-response is to become like that mountain, steady, grounded, and unshaken. This does not mean you stop feeling emotions, or that nothing matters to you. It means you choose wisely which storms deserve your voice, and which do not deserve even a second of your stillness. Sometimes the strongest reply is none at all, not because you lack words, but because your silence speaks with greater power. When others realize they cannot provoke you, they lose their grip over you. And when words no longer control your state of mind, manipulation ends. But there is something deeper here. This practice does not only shield you from conflict, it strengthens your spirit. The more you train yourself to watch without reacting, the more you notice how fleeting emotions truly are. Anger, irritation, the need to be heard. They rise, but they also fall if you allow them to pass without feeding them. Non-response is not merely a technique to avoid arguments. It is a path to inner liberation. When you no longer depend on others for approval, when you release the need to win every exchange, you discover a peace that nothing external can touch. And in that peace, clarity blooms. You see what matters and what does not. You realize not everything deserves your time. Not everything deserves your voice. Because when you master the discipline of silence, you also master the wisdom of speech. Ignoring blindly is emptiness, but choosing silence with awareness, that is real power. When to speak and when to stay silent. Not every situation deserves a response, but that doesn't mean silence is always the answer either. There are moments when holding your tongue protects your peace, and moments when speaking up can make all the difference. The real art lies in knowing when your words carry value, and when they are better left unsaid. The problem is, most of us get this balance wrong. We waste our voice in meaningless disputes, yet fall silent when truth or compassion calls for us to speak. We let emotions rule our reactions, rising to provocations without thought, but hesitating when something truly important needs to be said. This imbalance is what fuels inner conflict. Buddhist teachings offer a simple test. Before speaking, ask yourself 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to any of these is no, perhaps silence is wiser. But when all 3 align as yes, then your words become more than sound. They become medicine. If someone provokes you only to trap you in conflict, you don't need to defend yourself. Not because you lack the right words, but because you know they would serve no purpose. But if a person is truly seeking understanding, if there is space for genuine dialogue, then speaking is worthwhile. Silence, when chosen with awareness, is not weakness. It is strategy. Think about how often you've tried to explain something to someone who refuses to listen. No matter how clearly you speak, their mind is already closed. In such cases, silence protects your energy. You don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to win every debate. Some victories aren't victories at all. They're just wasted breath. Yet there are also moments when silence becomes harmful. When boundaries are crossed, when harm can be prevented, when truth can shield or heal another, then silence is no longer the answer. Wisdom is not in never speaking, but in knowing when your words carry weight. Most of the time, our ego tricks us. It tells us to speak because pride is at stake. But ego doesn't care about truth. It cares about control. Once you see this clearly, you stop responding to every provocation. Not everything deserves your voice. But some things must be said. Knowing the difference transforms your life. You stop scattering energy on emptiness and begin using your voice only where it matters most. And when you master this balance, something remarkable happens. You learn how to end conflict before it even begins. How to deactivate conflict before it begins. Avoiding conflict doesn't mean giving up or walking away. It means breaking the cycle before it grows. Most arguments are born from emotion, not reason. Anger, fear, or insecurity often drive people's words. If you respond with that same energy, the clash is unavoidable. But if you stay grounded, the conflict loses its strength. One of the most effective tools is language itself. Phrases like, "I understand your point," or "let's continue this when we're both calmer," do not mean you agree, but they also don't fuel the fire. You cut off the drama before it ignites. Another key lies in not taking things personally. Many people fight not because of you, but because of what they carry within themselves. By refusing to absorb their baggage, you leave them with nothing to push against. Even a neutral statement like, "I'm not going to argue about this right now," or total silence, can diffuse the heat instantly. And sometimes, humor becomes the sharpest wisdom. When someone expects you to explode, but you respond with lightness, you disarm them completely. Not because you mock the situation, but because you refuse to let their negativity decide your state of mind. You are never obligated to fight. One of the most liberating truths you can ever realize is this: you are not required to enter every battle that is presented to you. Just because someone tries to provoke you, it does not mean you must respond. Just because someone invites you into conflict, it does not mean you must attend. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your peace. Walking away from an argument without a single word is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. Many people believe silence is surrender, but in truth, it is freedom. Because the moment you stop needing to prove yourself to others, you gain something much more valuable: control over your own mind. You realize that true victory is not in winning arguments. It is in no longer needing them at all. That is when everything begins to shift. That is when you begin to taste real tranquility. The freedom of not getting hooked. Imagine for a moment a life where your peace cannot be stolen. Someone criticizes you, but your heart stays steady. Someone mocks you, but your joy remains untouched. Someone tries to pull you into anger, but you do not take the bait. That is freedom. This freedom does not come from ignoring reality. It comes from mastering your own mind. Most arguments are like baited hooks. They are designed to pull you in, to provoke, to drain your energy. And yet, when you learn to see them clearly for what they are, you no longer get caught. You recognize that most battles are illusions, fights that never deserved your attention in the first place. Think about how much lighter life feels when you no longer get dragged into every small storm. Most people carry unnecessary weights, the weight of other people's opinions, the weight of needing to explain themselves, the weight of taking every disagreement personally. But when you let go of those weights, you begin to walk freely again. How to take back control of your peace. For most people, peace rises and falls depending on what happens around them. A harsh word can ruin their day. A disagreement can throw off their balance. An insult can live in their mind for hours. Their emotions are like a boat tossed around by every wave. But when you stop reacting, when you stop letting the outside world dictate your inner world, something incredible happens. You reclaim your peace. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your worst days were made worse, not by what actually happened, but by the way you reacted to it? How much stress have you created for yourself by engaging in fights that were never worth it? How much energy has been wasted trying to win over people who were never going to listen? When you let go of the urge to fight, life suddenly looks different. You begin to see clearly that most things that once upset you never truly mattered. You stop giving your power to meaningless arguments. You stop carrying burdens that don't belong to you. You realize that peace isn't something you find. It's something you protect. This isn't about becoming numb or detached from life. It's about becoming wise with where you place your attention. It's about deciding, moment by moment, what is worth your energy and what is not. And most of the time, the truth is simple. It is not. Detaching from the need to be right. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is born from attachment, and one of the heaviest attachments we carry is the need to be right. The need to be understood. The need to have our opinion validated. But here is the paradox. The more you cling to being right, the more peace slips away. And the moment you release that need, the freer you become. When you detach from the urge to defend every opinion, you are no longer chained to other people's judgments. You stop wasting your voice on those who refuse to listen. You stop bleeding energy into conversations that never had a purpose. You stop being enslaved by the chaos of others. Of course, this doesn't mean allowing disrespect. It doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. What it means is that you set your boundaries differently, not with anger, but with unshakable calm. You choose when to speak and when to remain silent. And nothing confuses an aggressor more than someone who refuses to be dragged into conflict. That is the real power. Not the power to win every fight, but the power to rise above the need to fight at all. How to cultivate an unshakable mind. The most beautiful part of this practice is what begins to happen around you. When you no longer react, when you no longer feed the drama, the people who once tried to provoke you slowly lose interest. They realize they cannot control you, cannot pull you into their storm, cannot steal your calm. The arguments that once drained you start to fade, because without your response, they wither on their own. And something remarkable begins to unfold. You start attracting different energy. People who value peace, who honor presence, who match the calm you carry, are drawn toward you. Your silence speaks louder than any words. Your steadiness becomes a quiet reminder to others of what strength truly looks like. This kind of peace cannot be faked. It doesn't come from pretending not to care or forcing yourself to stay quiet. It comes from a deep inner knowing that nothing outside of you can disturb what you've built within. It is a peace that does not rely on approval, applause, or having the last word. And once you taste it, you will never want to return to the chaos of constant reaction. Because real freedom isn't doing whatever you want, whenever you want. Real freedom is not needing anyone else to validate your worth or confirm your truth. Real freedom is the unshakable confidence that, no matter what others say, no matter how the world tries to provoke you, you remain still, like a mountain in the wind. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, don't follow. Let them rage. Let them twist in their own turbulence, while you remain steady in silence. Smile if you wish, breathe deeply, and allow their energy to dissolve on its own. Let the noise pass through you like wind moving through trees, felt for a moment, but never held. Because the more you stop giving your attention to what is meaningless, the more you gain something priceless, your own peace. And that peace, quiet, deep, and unshakable, is the greatest strength you will ever carry. The daily practice of mental training. Learning to ignore what doesn't deserve your attention is a powerful beginning, but it is only the surface. True transformation comes when your mind becomes so stable that you no longer have to remind yourself to ignore. You don't just resist reacting, you stop even perceiving certain provocations as significant. What once felt like noise no longer even registers as noise. It simply passes by, unnoticed, like wind moving through empty space. But how do you reach such a state? Understanding the idea is not enough. Just like you cannot build a strong body without regular training, you cannot build a strong mind without daily practice. Emotional resilience is not something people are born with. It is a skill. And like any skill, it requires patience, discipline, and consistent effort. One of the first steps is self-observation. Every time you feel the urge to argue, defend, or react, pause. Turn inward, not outward. Instead of focusing on the person or the situation, ask yourself, what is happening within me right now? What emotion is rising? Is this pride, fear, insecurity, ego? Naming the source of the reaction loosens its grip. This awareness is far more powerful than simply trying to suppress your response. When you know why you are affected, the trigger begins to lose its hold. Another essential practice is detachment. Buddhism constantly reminds us nothing is permanent. Not insults, not disagreements, not even the identity you cling to. What stings today may become meaningless tomorrow. So when something troubles you, ask, will this matter a year from now? Even a month from now? If the answer is no, why give it the power to disturb your present peace? Meditation is another cornerstone, and it doesn't require hours in silence. Even 5 minutes a day of sitting still, breathing deeply, and anchoring yourself in the present can shift everything. The ability to watch your thoughts without reacting to them is the same ability you'll use to face outside triggers. If you can calm the inner storm, the outer storm cannot move you. Equally important is your environment. You may not control everything around you, but you can choose what you allow in. If your days are filled with negativity, gossip, and arguments, your mind will mirror that energy. But if you intentionally surround yourself with calm, supportive people, meaningful conversations, and even simple moments of silence, your mind slowly begins to reflect that peace. And don't forget the gift of humor. Life does not need to be carried so heavily. Many of the things that disturb us are only as powerful as the seriousness we give them. Learn to laugh at small annoyances. Learn to see some problems as passing dramas you do not need to participate in. A light heart protects you better than a sharp tongue ever will. This does not mean running away from reality. It means refusing to carry burdens that were never truly yours. Over time, you will notice something profound. Provocations no longer penetrate. Not because you are forcing yourself to ignore, but because there is nothing left inside you to react. The insults pass through you like echoes in an empty hall. The noise no longer finds a place to land. And this is the essence of an unshakable mind. It is not about avoiding arguments or rejecting criticism. It is about living with a peace that does not depend on anyone or anything. It is about waking each morning with the quiet confidence that nothing outside of you holds the power to disturb the calm within. That is real freedom. Freedom is not controlling every event in the world around you. It is mastering what happens inside you. And when you reach that stage, you will discover the greatest victory of all, a mind that cannot be moved. The greatest victory, mastering your inner world. Imagine how different your life would feel if you no longer felt pulled to react to every comment, every criticism, every attempt to provoke you. Picture yourself moving through the day with an inner calm so steady that no matter what is said about you, no matter how much noise swirls around you, your balance remains untouched. Not because you've buried your emotions, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've built something far stronger. Mastery over where you place your attention. Most people never experience this kind of peace. Instead, they live like puppets pulled by invisible strings. One harsh word and their mood collapses. One criticism and their day is ruined. One disagreement and their entire energy is consumed. They argue over things that don't matter, desperate to prove themselves right. They spend hours defending themselves against opinions that were never worth answering in the first place. And at the end of it all, they are left tired, frustrated, and drained. But it doesn't have to be this way. The moment you step out of that cycle, the moment you realize you are not obligated to respond to every battle, something remarkable happens. A deep calmness enters your life. You feel lighter, freer, and more alive. This is not passivity. It is wisdom. It is not silence out of fear. It is silence chosen from strength. Buddhism teaches that suffering is not born from what happens to us, but from how we respond to it. An insult is only an insult if you choose to take it in. A conflict only becomes yours if you choose to carry it. Like a flame, it only survives if you keep feeding it fuel. The moment you withdraw your attention, the fire burns out. Mastering your inner world doesn't mean you let others walk over you. It doesn't mean ignoring situations where your voice can bring truth, justice, or compassion. No, the real mastery lies in discernment, in knowing which situations deserve your presence and which ones are traps for your energy. When your words can heal, uplift, or protect, speak them with clarity. But when words would only deepen chaos, choose silence and let your stillness speak for you. This is where real freedom begins. You no longer measure your worth by how others see you. You no longer feel the need to win every argument or defend yourself against every opinion. You stop giving power to the judgments of others, and you stop living at the mercy of their moods. Instead, your peace becomes self-sustaining, rooted in the clarity of your own mind. Think of how light life becomes when you no longer carry other people's projections, when you no longer take every disagreement as a personal attack, when you no longer waste time trying to explain yourself to those who never wanted to understand. In that moment, you step into a level of freedom that very few people ever experience. And that is the greatest victory. Not defeating others, not silencing critics, not winning arguments. The greatest victory is the quiet, unshakable realization that you are no longer controlled by anything outside of you. The world may shout, but inside you remain still. The world may push, but inside you remain balanced. That is mastery, that is freedom, and once you taste it, you'll never want to return to the chaos of reaction. Your invitation to true freedom. Now comes the real test, not in theory, but in your daily life. The next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, pause. The next time you feel that familiar pull to react, ask yourself, Is this truly worth my peace? And if the answer is no, then let go. Walk away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Choose calm over chaos. Choose your well-being over the fleeting satisfaction of proving a point. This is how freedom begins. Not by controlling the world around you, but by mastering the space within you. When you realize you can choose silence, when you realize you can choose not to give away your energy, you unlock a kind of power that no argument can ever touch. And since you've stayed with me until the very end, I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments a simple phrase, a reminder you'll carry with you from this video. It might be a teaching you heard today, or your own realization. Something short, something powerful. One line you can return to whenever you need to protect your energy and stay centered. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Each week, we explore timeless wisdom and practical teachings to help you live with more peace, clarity, and strength. And if you know someone who struggles with conflict, someone who reacts too quickly or gets lost in negativity, share this video with them. Sometimes a single shift in perspective can change the way someone experiences their entire life. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. And thank you for your willingness to grow alongside me. Until we meet again in the next video, remember this: your peace is priceless. Protect it, nurture it, and never give it away lightly. Because in the end, nothing is more valuable than a calm mind and a steady heart.